Hi folks, it is Thibaut Van Dam here with another YouTube video. Very happy to be back on my channel, and I figured I could start by making a video sort of with a simple topic, just doing a review of some headphones that I just picked up called the Fidelio X2HR is made by Philips. You can see open back headphones. I've made a template of how to do a review of these headphones, and I've done reviews of mostly headphones in the past, and that's because as an independent artist, my perspective on this subject is I need to engineer myself and I need equipment that works well and is durable and lasts long. And so I speak from that perspective, and it's worth thinking about that if you are watching this and you're interested in these headphones, because you might want them for gaming, or you might want them for, I don't know, voice acting or any number of other things. And so just bear in mind your use case when, of course, going through this. I have been doing this channel for over a decade now. I didn't used to ask people to subscribe, but seeing people subscribing, getting comments, especially, I respond to the comments actually, especially when they have to do with something I can help with. And so it does keep me motivated. It keeps me kind of inspired to keep making videos and stuff like this. So if you do find this interesting, then please definitely consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It's the best way to stay in the loop. And thank you, of course, sincerely to all the people that have been subscribing to my channel. In the meantime, it's reminded me that I need to come back, make more videos like this. And so thanks. Let's go ahead and get into it. The Fidelio X2HRs, the price, they were on offer for £70, and that's pretty good. That's inexpensive, not fairly expensive. That's not like reasonably, like most things. If you want a pair of good open back headphones that are durable, well built, that sound pretty neutral, you're gonna need to spend like $100, and that's what it's gonna cost. Now, if you get a good brand, good company, good pair of headphones, they will be well built. They won't break, like the 702s, things like that. And you might even have a warranty. You might have replacement parts available to you, like the Beyerdynamic DT990s or 770s, that kind of thing. It will cost that much. It's an investment. They'll last years. It's far better in every way to spend more on a higher quality pair of headphones, because you will thank yourself time and time again. And especially if you're doing something like mixing, you will need that. So $70, that's a steal, especially because the thing that really struck me as like astonishing was how neutral these were ranked. If you go to the ratings.com website and you actually use their kind of rating tool kind of comparison chart, you can look at all the headphones with the highest neutral ratings. Now, these obviously, the X2HRs are not at the top of the list, but I'm pretty sure they're in the top 20. And that's pretty freaking crazy. And they are the cheapest headphones that are ranked at 8.4 for neutral sound. That's bananas. The clamp force, kind of the general experience of wearing them, including comfort, stability, leak, and isolation, those kind of four things. So they're all kind of attached. Bearing in mind that they're open back, I'll just say right now, they leak and they don't isolate, and that's basically all you need to know. But in terms of clamp force, comfort, and stability, these two things, they're attached, right? So ratings.com evaluated them as having 1.2 pounds of clamp force. That is sort of true. It feels like a firm grip when I wear them. Yeah, it feels like I have a clamp thing going on. That feels serious. I also should say that they're quite heavy, and you'll notice that when you wear them too. Now, part of the clamp force has to do with this adjustment, self-adjusting tool right here. This self-adjusting tool is, you can see, attached to a piece of plastic, and I'll talk about the build quality in a second, but basically it's quite a firm force. So actually, I put these on and I noticed that they tend to go up. They want to return to that state. Maybe that would loosen over time, but for now, that's like crazy annoying, and is not just annoying, but is affecting my ability to actually listen to them. So that's not good. I would also say that as far as stability goes, it's weird to say because the clamp force makes them stable in the sense that if you had to do this, look down, look around for something, they're not going to fall off. But because of that sort of strap thing, I found with my size head, they tend to adjust, and that isn't good. So they were ranked at a 6 for stability. I would give them a 6 because they don't feel very stable. And like I said, leak and isolation are not good, and they've been ranked as such. And that's reasonable because they're open back. I want to talk about the build now. So the build quality, ratings.com has given them, I think, a 7.5. Maybe, no, I think they've given them a 6. Let me just double check. I'm looking at the website now. Build qualities. No, 7.5. They've been given a 7.5, and I basically agree with this. Now, they feel well built. They feel heavy. I like that feeling. Like with the Beyerdynamics, Something about them, when I wear them, they feel professional, but there are a few small things I'm not as keen on. So, all right, the first thing I'll say, is that you get faux leather. The faux leather is convincing enough here. That you might look at it and say, is that leather? I can't tell, because if you look at the side, it kind of looks like leather. So the fact that you can't tell if it's like faux leather or not, I think, or the fact I can't tell that, that's convincing for me. This pad feels like a strap in a Victor Knox bag. That's what that feels like. And that's pretty good, but it's not the same as the AKG K702, like kind of maybe 3mm thick leather strap here. It's a different thing. And it feels necessarily cheaper, and it is. And so you would expect that. There's metal. I like metal. Me and metal have a good relationship. This ring is a thick piece of metal that has no give. This grill is also metal that has no give. These kind of strands are metal. That's actually better than the 702s, which they're plastic. And that's really useful because you know that these drivers are connected by a cable that goes through there. So it's good to know that you have something solid protecting that. This solid piece of metal. It might not be super crazy durable metal, but it is metal and it's not plastic. And I don't know. I would usually choose metal over plastic. Where there is plastic, the plastic feels durable, which is the entire ear cup. This is metal, I believe. So that's cool. It feels like kind of the 414s by AKG, those microphones. The way the grill feels, it's got no give. That's great. In terms of the build, the things that I don't really like as much, the pads. The pads are like a cheap sofa feeling. Now, I know that they have some proprietary memory foam, yada, yada, and sure, it's patented or whatever, but it's the actual texture. And by comparison, the 702s legitimately feel like a very plush, very enjoyable, very nice set of ear cups. That is night and day. Without a doubt, these are the least comfortable ear pads I've ever tried. I might have more sensitive skin slightly. I don't know. I don't think so. But they are, as far as I'm concerned, less comfortable than any other ear cups I've used. Yeah. That said, there's something about those cheap old sofas that seems to last forever. So they might also be coincidentally very durable. I don't know. They are removable. There are third-party replacements, but Philips doesn't yet sell their own replacements, which again, I just think is dumb. I think that strangely, when it comes to build quality, the thing I'm usually thinking about is longevity. At this point, something I could mention is that this uses a 3.5 millimeter jack connection. And it comes with a cable. The cable doesn't feel supple. The cable is deeply microphonic, which has to do with both the headphones and actually the cable. That's mega unfortunate. The microphonicness of the cable is actually like deeply problematic as far as I can tell. But again, when it comes to build quality, it's about longevity as far as I can tell. That's usually what I think about. And the weird thing I'm going to say is that something about these feels like they might last a very, very long time. And that's pretty cool. It's cool that they might last super long. I can't really imagine what would go first. I think the pad might start getting grosser first, maybe. I think this kind of adjusting tool might also get maybe a little bit looser over time, but it feels better than the kind of really thin threads that you find on the 702s, that self-adjusting tool. Honestly, they feel well built. Now, I mentioned the third-party pads, sound. Let's go ahead and just talk about sound, because that's really what people and what I was most interested in when it came to these headphones. They sound pretty good. They do sound pretty good. They are ranked at 32 ohms of impedance. Everyone knows that impedance is going to affect kind of the apparent volume you'll get out of the headphones, how easy they are to drive. 32 ohms is very easy to drive. So the sound, as I was thinking about the frequencies of these headphones, there are kind of three larger areas, and I'll be speaking with respect to each of them and how they correspond with articulation and timbre. The low end, I liked. The X2HRs have a noticeable, noteworthy low end, and it's a little bit more pronounced than, say, the Genelec 8020Bs, which I use as my speaker monitors. I like that. I thought that they sounded good, and I would trust them to a degree, bearing in mind that they might be slightly overemphasizing. That, I want to point out, is quite remarkable considering that they're open back headphones. That's pretty special. You don't find open back headphones that have such bass volume and also articulation. So that was cool. The mids are my favorite. I really love the mids. In terms of representation, I thought they were very neutral, very accurate in terms of frequency and volume. They were articulate in a way that I really enjoyed, which worked very well with the soundstage. And then I also found that there was really no timbre to speak of, and when I talk about later on some of the sound kind of experiments I went through with different songs I was listening to, the things I noticed about the mid articulation was really great, especially with the soundstage. So that's something I'll talk about more in a bit. And then finally, the high end. The high end was kind of maybe my least favorite because it's represented in terms of frequency. When you look at the chart, you'll see the frequency is fulfilled. It looks pretty good and it sounds there. You'll hear the high end. But it was so noticeably different from all the other neutral sources I have. The Genelec 8020Bs that I have, I trust the high end there. The 702s sound like the 8020Bs, just maybe slightly different. That's why I use them for mixing. These, on the other hand, sound kind of masked and woolly, and in terms of timbre, not refined and not very concise, not very clear. Although they're represented, although the sound is there, there's sort of a quality to the sound that isn't that enjoyable, to be honest. And that's really unfortunate because the ideation of what the essential song is, every monitoring resource will always deviate from the fundamental. There is no way to hear the song in its truest sense except if you hear it from the instrument and live. And even then, depending where in the room you are and everything else, you really never get the song. There's always the ideation of the song, what the song represents. And these headphones are fairly adequate representation of the song, but the high end is the least accurate, we'll say, that reflects that ideation. I hope that makes sense. I know it sounds really maybe, intellectualized or something. Okay. So the mono test. The mono test is my first sound experiment. I like to test things in mono because actually it will reveal everything you need to know about the headphones. Sometimes headphones will deceive using their soundstage, and they'll be like, oh, isn't it wonderful? And then you mix down to mono and you're like, it's super noisy and clangy. These held up well. I was pleased. Basically, what I just described about the 3 frequency kind of brackets, basically is the same when it comes to the mono test. So that's good to know that it mixes down in mono well. That's important when you're trying to do a mix, when you're trying to mix in mono. So that way you can make sure that everything is well represented. So that's good. That's reliable then. I would use these and mix in mono, and then I would start having fun with the stereo stuff to try to represent things in an expressive way. The soundstage is good. I like the soundstage quite a lot. They felt open. They didn't feel closed. They don't feel quite as open as the 702s, but because of the lower impedance, because they're easier to drive, the appearance and how apparent maybe the wide soundstage is more noticeable than the 702s, which is kind of confusing to say. But let's say the 702s were better driven, I would think that they probably were wider and more like specific and detailed, but these feel as detailed and specific, and even more so because they're loud enough and everything else. And again, I think impedance has something to do with the fullness of the sound, and that's, again, like a timbre related thing. Okay, so when I listened to my own music, that's experiment 2, I found that my own mixes were slightly different than what I expected. Again, relating to kind of the high end. I just felt like some of the things that I chose to do sounded different in the high end than what I intended. But for the most part, it was usable with some attention to detail. And then I just want to talk about some of the songs that I listened to that I've talked about in previous reviews. And I use them as my reference. So I have my kind of different song playlists up. So, and maybe what I'll do is I'll make a playlist on Spotify. I'll put a link to that so you can listen to some of these songs for yourself. The first song that comes to mind is I Don't Know What's Happened to the Kids Today. And that's a song by Labi Sifri. And about, 2 minutes in, there's this part where, the drums kick in and everything. And I don't know what's happened to the kids today. And the tambourine. And this tambourine is so sharp. And I just think at the time with the kind of analog stuff, they were really pushing high end because it usually just got kind of smothered over with the analog stuff. So I think they just pushed it a bit too much. And depending on the headphone and the monitoring source and stuff, you'll hear that tambourine in different ways, and it gets triggered to varying degrees. Usually it sounds a bit sharp, and often it feels even way too sharp depending on the headphones. With these, they were about as sharp as I expected, maybe slightly more slicey and not as nice. So, it is what it is. It was what I was expecting, and I wasn't as surprised. I felt like other things were well represented, though. Any stereo things. So in that same song, something I didn't notice when I had reviewed that song and reviewed the headphones 371s was the violins. There's these kind of string ensemble in the stereo image in that same breakdown part. I hadn't noticed it in the 371s, but with the mids on these, oh yeah, it was really noticeable, very easy to enjoy. Next, the song Homeward Bound by Simon & Garfunkel. Every day is an endless stream of cigarettes and magazines was sibilant. It got triggered for me. And what I was trying to do when evaluating that song is determine, do these contribute sibilance where there is none? And the answer is no. That part is just sibilant. Again, it was that analog kind of pushing the high end more thing. And it just happens that way. With the 8020Bs, it's not sibilant, but you can tell that in any other thing, which is not as neutral, it's going to sound quite crisp. Yeah. I'd listened to Guilty Cubicles by Broken Social Scene. This is a different song altogether. Very immersive, beautiful. I thought it sounded really nice. I had also listened to a series of electronic songs, specifically Ordinary Pleasure by Tori et Moi. I really liked the low end. For open back headphones, I was really impressed. I thought that the frequency response was really well conveyed. And other songs like Helado Negro, Running, again, really, really well defined and fun. Basically what I thought of the song as, and then just some more. And then I had also listened to a Beatles song. I'm trying to remember which one now. Here, There, and Everywhere. When I listened to that song, it's a song I know really well since I was a child. So the ideation of that song is really clear in my mind. And when I had heard it, it was basically what I remembered the song being, with just more detail all throughout, which speaks to basically the bottom line, which is that these headphones offer a really, really more articulate listening experience than your average pair of headphones. And for 75 or 70 pounds or maybe 100 pounds, I think that's probably worth trying. So that's what I can say about the practical value of the headphones, that they are affordable and they are more inexpensive than others, and that they are worth trying to find out. Your user experience may vary. I will point out some other practical things that I think are worth mentioning. The 3.5 millimeter cable is removable. Also, the fact it's 3.5 millimeters is great because it means it's easy to take out and replace with another cable that's less microphonic. It's worth pointing out that these don't fold and they don't come with a bag. So they're slightly less portable than other headphones. So that's worth checking out. The company, Philips, offers a 2-year warranty. I found this out by contacting them, though. And so I don't know how I feel about that. Philips is a large company, and they make lots of different things. I registered the product online, but I'm not really convinced that they would provide replacement ear pads if something went wrong, or I don't really know what they would do. I think that they explained to me, I spoke with someone, I had registered actually and put in an inquiry. Someone had phoned me and we spoke on the phone, and they basically explained if anything went wrong in the next 2 years that I would return it to Amazon, which feels sketchy to me. I feel like they're not going to let me do that, but I guess we'll find out. 2 years is a long time, and I basically believe that they would last that long. I basically think that these headphones sound good, and there are things about them that feel sort of cheap, but for a pair of headphones that are open back, the sound quality is pretty neutral. There are useful components of the sound response, the frequency sound profile. The mids especially are very useful for stereo imaging and also just articulation and detail, the low end also. And then I think the high end is not ideal, and it may lead you more astray. Not that the frequencies are not there, they are. It's just they don't sound in terms of quality. The timbre, when I say quality, the nature, the characteristic of that sound is not as accurate as most of my other resources, most of my other monitoring solutions. So that just about does it for my review of these open back headphones. There are other headphones I've been looking into. Someone had told me to check out the Rode NTH 100s, and I checked them out. I haven't gotten them yet, but I'm curious about them. So let me know if you like this review in the comments below. Thanks for watching the video, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It's the best way to stay in the loop. Let me know what other headphones you think are good, other sort of equipment you think you'd like me to review. And yeah, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you at the next one. Ciao for now.